coming to you from the Christian Church of Anchorage. Everybody give a cheer. Say hi to everyone online too. Alright. Good to have everybody here this morning. Oh, hey, can you turn the projector on? The remote should be right there. And a little technical difficulties. I got it. It takes a second. Anyway, how's everybody doing? Good. Oops. Should be kind of here. Everybody have a good weekend so far?
Yeah.
You like that nice stormy weather we all have? No? Yeah, I can't be getting things done this weekend. I took some vacation time and had to push everything back a day. But we're up and running now, so let's be standing to begin our service. When the music fades, all the drift away, and I simply longing just to embrace something that's right there. And will bless your heart. I'll bring you more than a song, for a song in the sky. It's not what you have required. You search much deeper within. The way things appear, you're looking into my heart.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see everyone today. Beautiful day. I am going to go to the Old Testament this morning. Proverbs 27:17. I'm actually getting one piece of that. Iron sharpens iron. I've been married to this for 40 years. And this year I turned 50 also, so a couple of big milestones, and probably more so than normal, I've looked back a little bit more. I don't know if being nostalgic, but I've looked back a little bit more, and I remember some of the good times, and I remember some of the tough times. You know, we've had a couple of situations, a couple of periods where financially it was tough, and I remember we'd drop hints about what we like for our birthday or for Christmas. We rarely do that now. Since our kids have been graduated 10 years, and I'm going to regret saying this, Paul, but we've doing pretty well financially, Mr. Auctioneer. If we want something, we typically just go get it. So a couple of months ago, I got home from one of my trips. She goes, my wife was excited. She goes, I bought you something online. You're going to like it, I think. I hope. And I'm like, all right, Showed up a couple of days later, and when I checked the mail and she gave it to her, she goes, no, you open it. She made me open it in front of her. And she got me this shirt. This shirt says, sharpen yourself, sharpen others, iron sharpens iron. And it's one of my favorite verses in the Bible. I like the shirt so much. You can tell about people sometimes when they're traveling about how they're dressed when they travel. I was rocking this shirt on my trip back from Idaho because I like the shirt so much. Over the years in my discussions with others or in some of my reads, people have had different ideas about why we need to be sharpened. Some feel they want to be sharpened because they want a better relationship with God. Others have said they want wanted to have a better relationship with their brothers and sisters in Christ, so they wanted to be better. Some feel that they want to be sharpened because they want to be better prepared for the battle against the evil one. Some of those individuals go so far as to call themselves implements or tools or even weapons for God to use against the evil one. A few months ago, it's probably right after camp, a few months ago before Bible study, and this is a shameless plug of the Bible study that happens usually after service downstairs. A few months ago, we were talking about camp and specifically about recruiting campers and recruiting moms and dads to be sponsors or camp moms, camp dads. And I didn't know it at the time, but Paula's helped out at camp for several years. And as we were discussing this, she was explaining, I don't really feel that's my role right now. That's not where I've done that. I have a different role. So, disclaimer, please don't go after the service today saying, I think Rich was saying something about your age. All right? But I got an idea what she's talking about. When I was at camp this year, I was the oldest person there. Maybe the camp nurse had me by a couple of years, but I'm telling you, there was some, it was a little bit awkward at first. It'd been years since I've been to camp, like 14, and, the campers just look younger than they ever have. So, anyways, the idea of this sharpening each other, I think, is an awesome part of God's plan. Personally, I think it's genius. Getting back to Paula and our discussion in class that morning, I know what her role is. Her role is to sharpen, this 50-year-old, get me to the next level. And really, everybody in that class, that is our role, is to sharpen each other. I hope that I sharpen others that I come in contact because, while I may have been resistant to that earlier in my life, I embrace that responsibility now. The one thing I will tell you is that this idea of sharpening, sometimes it's tough love. I have been corrected in class by Paula and by Daryl and Kelly maybe more than once. But it's all good stuff. We're going to go into prayer soon, just in a few moments. I would just, if you have any areas that you need sharpening or whatever your reason, I would just invite you to take them to God. I believe God wants you to be sharp. And I know that there is a church full of people that will be willing to help. Please pray with me. Father, thank you for all the blessings you've bestowed upon us. All praise goes to you. And Father, thank you for those that you put in our paths to help guide us, train us, and teach us. Those that help sharpen us. And Father, I would ask that you remind us to be good students. And I would also ask that you help us have the courage to take the learned lessons out into the world to move your kingdom forward. It's in your Son's precious name. Amen. That never gets any less awkward. So, again, welcome. It's great to see everybody. In your seat backs, there is a connection card. If you're visiting, you are a regular, a member, fill it out. You know, they can check some boxes off where you might want some more information, you know, like my spiritual journey, my favorite one, small group Bible studies. Even if you just put on there, Mandy, I appreciate what you do here, and drop it inside the offering box. Also, so talk about appreciation. I don't know if everyone knew this, but October is Pastor Appreciation Month. Just remember that. And today we're having the auction. Hope you brought your extra money. I've only got really one thing to share with you. And I spoke with a lot of the high school campers from this church and some from Kenai. And I spoke with some of the ones that had been the ones that graduated, that came back to help with camp. And what I basically asked them was, what do we have to do as a church to keep you in church as you transition from high school to adulthood? And, you know, you're dealing with millennials, so I didn't know what I was going to expect for an answer. But the one thing that surprised me is that, and I tried to talk to probably a dozen or so people, they had the same essential answer, and that was, if you put something on, we will show up. If you put something on that's Christian-based, we will show up. And I was surprised by that. You know, so if, you know, we all have gifts, we all have a light. Just remember that, you know, as these kids transition to the world, and trying to find themselves and find their way through that world, we probably have a responsibility to do what we can to keep them inside the church. Please pray with me. Father, we bring to you our tithes, our offerings, our gifts. Father, we just ask that you bless them beyond what we can imagine. And then send those gifts out into the world to move your kingdom forward. Thank you for your Son. It's in his precious name, amen.
I guess I don't merit a slide when I come up, but that's all right. So, anyway, before I introduce our guest speaker today, I'd like to remind everybody who's watching on Facebook that the auction today after church will be, Daryl will be, is it you in charge of the Zoom, Daryl? So if you're not here today or you're out of town, you can still make bids and Daryl will kind of handle that for you. So maybe send a message there on Facebook and he'll get you that code. Maybe Mandy can put it on there right now. So if you're not planning on staying today, change your mind and stay. We're going to have a good time. We have a lot of good food down there. It's all 100% for Great Glen Christian Camp. And we got silent auction items. We have a lot more stuff than at first it was coming in kind of slow. And I thought, I blame everything on COVID now. You know, I gained some weight, COVID. Bad day at school, COVID. You know, I can blame it on everything. So I was blaming COVID again. But everybody came through and we have a lot of stuff up there. Or down there, I should say, for the live auction and the silent auction. So bidding's open. As soon as you get down there, start bidding. Even if you don't really need something, bid anyways. And because it's all for a good cause. All right. So anyway, the person who's going to be guest speaking today, he's the president of Great Glen Christian Camp. And really good friend of mine. But we weren't always really good friends. I've always known about Lucas, but believe it or not, you won't believe this, he's several years younger than me. I know, right? So... But anyway, we didn't become really good friends until camp. Daryl asked me one year to come up to camp, and I've always been kind of hesitant because I I work with kids all day long, and I have a lot of kids of my own. I thought, oh, I don't need to do camp too. But I did one year, and I really enjoyed it. I've actually been dean a couple times now. And like I said, I didn't know Lucas until camp. I knew Lucas, but like when we went to men's retreats, he was in the gun camp talking about guns. I was in the fantasy football camp talking about fantasy football. And guess what? I like guns now, and Lucas likes fantasy football. And so we've kind of balanced each other out. So, and also one more thing about Lydia, his wife. Boys, can you stand up for a minute? Ricky, Matthew, show your shirts. Okay, they're wearing my camp shirts that I made in camp. Well, actually, let me go back. Okay, for years and years, we had camp T-shirts. It's kind of a tradition, junior camp. And I am not very artsy. In fact, I haven't had a creative idea in like 15 and a half years. So that's what teacher aides are for. So they come up with all the ideas, then I get the credit for it. So anyway, Lydia, she'd say, Eric, do you want to make your T-shirt, your camp T-shirt? And I'd say, oh, can you just make it for me? And she did for about 4 years. Then one year she forced me to make a T-shirt, and it doesn't fit anymore. But it looked really good, and now my boys get to wear them. And I had them wear those. So I had to pull this one out. It's kind of snug too. But this is actually this one's from, what's it called? VBS. I can't believe I forgot what it's called. Vacation Bible School. So anyway, round of applause for Lucas as he comes up here.
Can you hear me? I was going to bring a bullhorn because that's what we use at camp, but I felt like that might look a little bit like a social agitator, so I thought I would use the microphone instead. So good afternoon, good morning. So yes, I am lighter than Eric and younger both, so my camp T-shirts still fit, so... So having listened to Rich and to Eric both, it put me at ease as I got ready to come up here because I realized if they could do it, I could do this. So I am not a professional speaker. I am not I'm not. But I am Lucas Lance. I am the president of Great Land Christian Camp. That sounds way more impressive than it really is. So I'm the only person that doesn't protest any louder than anybody else when it comes time to put a president in a spot on a sheet of paper that we send to the state. So we can get our nonprofit. But yeah, so Eric asked me quite a while back, or talked to me quite a while back about speaking. Daryl asked me to speak, and that was quite a while ago. This summer, and I'm like, you know what, I can do this. This can't be hard. Well, the interesting thing, and this came up in Sunday school this morning, is guess what? Tomorrow soon becomes today. And the reality is, 4 months ago, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, I'm like, yeah, I can do that, not a problem. Well, today, I have to do that. And we're going to see how well I do, and whether or not I should have said yes or not, and you'll get to decide. But it is funny that tomorrow soon becomes today. And that's what we're working against, each one of us, all the time through life as we go. We make our decisions as we do our life together and apart, is that the realization that tomorrow soon becomes today. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. If we're prepared and things are going well, tomorrow becoming today isn't an issue. If we haven't prepared, or if things come up that we're not prepared for, or they're outside of what we thought was going to happen, guess what? Tomorrow becoming today can be a real problem. And so as we work, especially today as we talk about camp, as we work with the young folks, that now as they move on to various things, Rich hit on this, how do we keep those people involved? Well, guess what? One day, quite a few years ago, I was at camp. I was a camper. There were people that worked with me at camp that could never see this day happening, I'm guessing. So they were thinking there's no way on earth we'd give this kid a microphone and we would let him stand in front of everybody and talk. So that's just not reasonable. But the reality is that tomorrow became today, and here I am. And so this is a testament to anybody being able to do this. If I can do this, you can do this, I guarantee. And so I'm going to hit a couple different sections of Scripture today. If you're a note taker, I'm going to be in Romans 12, just the beginning, and I'm also going to be in Hebrews 12, just the first few verses. I'm going to hit a lot on. I'm going to probably talk a lot about stories and things that I see in my own life, things I've been involved with at camp, and as raising. I have 4 young boys. So I have Owen, Titus, Grant, and Nolan. So 14, 12, 9, 6. So me and Lydia are raising. And so I'm going to use insights into parenting and into kind of my own life, and that's kind of how I speak. So if it's hard to take notes, I apologize. I am not a standard outline follower. But I wanted to talk about some things that as parents and as also as, to show or highlight the importance of camp. One thing that I've seen here recently, and it's interesting because I was never going to be this person, Eric hit on a little bit. If I'm going to talk about something, chances are it's going to be about guns and hunting. And actually, I've realized I'm not even a hunter. I just like guns, apparently. I'm a terrible hunter, but I like guns. And so if I was going to talk about something, that would be it. So when I get together with other guys, that's what I talk about. If I was going to talk to other people about how things are going, guess what? Chances are we're going to come back around to something that has to do with probably guns and knives and hunting and that outdoorsy stuff. Well, recently, my kids have gotten involved in sports. And guess what? Oh, yeah, I'm that dad. So don't ask about how sports are going because I'm going to be so excited to tell you how sports are going. I didn't realize I would become that person. And so as my kids have grown up, they've gotten into soccer. I grew up in Eagle River. Eagle River was not a soccer town. The valley was soccer people, and soccer people are weird, okay? So that's just all you need to know. Don't be soccer people. So we are now a soccer family. We spend sometimes 3-4 nights a week at the soccer fields during the summer. We also play indoor soccer in the spring, which now that I'm listing it out, we sound like we play a lot of soccer, but it's reasonable. We keep it balanced. But as I got a chance to watch my kids play, the excitement of watching my children play and to do well, I will brag on my kids. I have kids that have the eye of the tiger, which when you're a coach, a kid who you do not have to explain to where to take the ball to and what to do with it, that's huge. My kids know how to put the ball in the net, and it's so fun to watch. It's so fun to watch. If you know my mom, Nancy, you think of her as being a chatty lady. She's a lot of fun. She's helped at camps and cooked at camps, and she loves to have fun, and you can hear her laugh. But when you get her at a sporting event, she becomes a little bit unreasonable. And when her grandchild's on the field, it doesn't make a difference what the score is. It doesn't make a difference who they're playing against or how unreasonable it may seem. She wants her grandchild to put the ball in the net, and she knows they can do it. And so she wants to see them do it. And so as I've kind of come to grasp this fact that I'm a sports person. I'm highly competitive, by the way. I have a camp story about that here in a little bit. It's fun to watch kids play. Now, Owen started to play football this year. It's the first time we've let Owen play football. He got into high school, and we're like, now that you're in high school, we'll let you play football. He's begged for years. So he get ready to play football, and guess what he wants to do this summer? He wants to fish, and he wants to hunt. He does not want to play football. So he has realized, no, it's during hunting and fishing season. I don't want to play football. Well, we made him play. And again, I'm that dad, but that's like, let's go watch him play. And that's like, I thought it'd be entertaining. I didn't go to a lot of games. I mean, I probably went and just hung out for social aspects. Football's interesting. I do play on a fantasy football league here at CCA with a bunch of CCA people. I have beat some of them. Some of them have beat me. Anyways, we got a chance to watch Owen play football. Well, it turns out Owen's pretty good. And finally we have found something that Owen has wanted to run and hit people his whole life. It's just a natural skill. John Hostetter at family camp 12 years ago came to us and said, okay, here's the deal. I've coached a lot of kids. I've seen a lot of things. Your kid can throw, he can run, and he can hit. Well, those are not attributes that you want in your 3-year-old, because when you translate throwing, running, and hitting to kids that he's smaller than, more than likely, because he was a bigger kid than most, it doesn't look well. It looks like you're talking to a lot of parents and apologizing to a lot of parents for your child's actions because you've hit him with a rock, they've ran him over, they've knocked him down. Now we get to watch him on the football field. And again, as a parent, I'm watching this, and as I sat there and watched him play, and again, he was a defensive player. He played both sides of the ball, but defense was where it was at. And it's like, finally, I got excited about defense. Nobody gets excited about defense. Defense is lame, okay? We're there to score touchdowns. Well, no, as watching has played defense, it was like, no, this is impressive. Okay, I get to see him run, tackle, knock down people, hit people, and it's all legitimate. Okay, he's doing it right by the rules. He's knocking people down, taking people out, and this is good. And as I sat there, I realized what it is about sports and what it is about having a child in a sport. It's tangible. My kid is going to put the ball in the net. Okay, my kid is going to knock that kid down. And the team is going to play the way they're supposed to play. I can see it. It's physical contest. And then I realized it's what I loved. I wrestled in high school. And I've said even now, I have dreams every now and then about wrestling again. And the beauty of wrestling is it is a physical a contest between you and another individual where you are after one thing, winning. I just have to physically outperform the other person. And so as I was looking at this as at sports and all these various things I'm involved in, the thing that makes sports so awesome to be involved with is that you can tangibly see the outcome. And you can train yourself and you can physically be involved. The dangerous part about sports is you can get so wrapped up into it because it's so tangible that you lose sight of what is truly important in this world. And as I saw this through my own just watching, it's like I'm a reasonable person. I get really excited at my child's sports. I want my child to play more sports. That's not reasonable. So, yeah, but it's tangible. And so as I was transitioning, like how do we get from that tangibility, that's something we can grasp a hold of, how do we get that from the sports into working with kids and impacting their lives to the point where we can affect change, something that is very hard to see, something that's very hard to quantify. You can't graph it necessarily. There's good days and there's bad days, but how do we impact kids to the point where we can see what we're getting? And what I've started to realize, and as I was looking at this, is that this last year at camp, actually here I want to do this first. Who worked at camp this year? Who was a staff member at camp? Stand up. This is going to be the embarrassing part. You're going to have to stand up. I'm standing up. You can stand up. If you helped out at camp this summer. Awesome. Okay, give those people a round of applause. Okay, if you were a camper, if you were a student or a camper at camp this last year, stand up, please. Don't be bashful. So stand up, Matthew, Ricky. Who else we got? Okay, I think that's all. That's okay. So give them a round of applause. Okay. Okay. As I was looking at this, how do we get how do we quantify this? So this last year at camp, I was working with the staff at middle school and high school, and I believe we had 4 campers that came back to camp to be staff. And that's probably one of our biggest groups, or our 4 new people, because there's some of us had been around for a long time over that we can't remember that we were ever campers. But there was 4 kids that are pretty much fresh out of our program that were back involved with camp. And as I sat there, and they did a phenomenal job, that is when I realized, okay, now this is what we're after. How do we get these kids not only involved with camp, but how do we get them back involved as adults as they leave camp? And Rich spoke to us a little bit too, also of having an event for them to come to. Well, I'm going to tell you this. We have an event for them that they can come to. It's called camp. And we would love all of it. And I would love every one of you to be involved. I have a place, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we go. I have a place for all of you, so at camp. But the one thing I wanted to go back as we're looking at as the quantifying of kids' sports and all this is what we are after, is that we are after perfection, is what we want to see. No matter what we were after, I wanted to see the kids produce. When I coached, I wanted to see them nice passes, perfect passes, shots on goal scored, to run the play correctly, to do this. We're all after perfection, and we can see what that looks like on a playing field. When you move to life, it's a little harder to see. As we jump into Romans chapter 12, and this is where I'm going to spend a chunk of my time today, is Romans chapter 12, and I'm actually, I want to just use 2, but I'm going to start in 1. It says, I urge you, therefore, brethren, and I'm using the NAS today. It says, I urge you, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as living and holy sacrifice, acceptable to God, which is your spiritual service of worship. Just even stopping right there. That makes sense, and as Christians, we can kind of understand what he's getting at, but that's not necessarily something you can grab a hold of and hold on to. It's a concept, it's an idea. It's not as easy to grab onto, but as we look, it says, verse 2 says, and do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove that the will of God is that which is good, acceptable, and perfect. That's what we're after, the will of God. And the nice thing about the will of God is we know that when we are in it, we are able to achieve perfection, not because of us, but because of what he's done for us. And that's something we're all chasing. I want to talk about camp and how we set it up. One, I'm on the board, and it's a group of individuals. When you hear camp board, that sounds kind of distant, like people you don't know. In 1996, I believe it is, Daryl Titus, Brad Norris, my dad, Bill Lance, my uncle, Raj Lance, Jim Carroll, and Susan, my sister, Susan Nay at the time, sat down and said, hey, we want to have a camp program. We had been with Parkside. I don't know what all exactly happened there, but our camp program ceased to exist as we knew it. And so a group of guys sat down and said, no, we think that camp is important. We want to see this. We want to see this through. We want to see camp happen. We think it's important. I was still a camper at that point. I came on board just a little while after that and became a part of the board. And I sat down with a group. Michael Trusty would have been involved with that. Rob Branham would have been involved with that. But individuals that as I was starting out, as I made that transition from camper to being involved with camp, Rob Branham called me and said, hey, you know what? I want to have you come be helpful at camp. It's like, wow. Whoa, okay. And he's like, I need you to come lead a group of a lesson. I want you to do this. Again, I was not the kind of camper that you probably looked at and thought, you know what? We want him back involved at camp. There were probably people that when they saw me go were like, hey, that's a good news. I wasn't a bad kid, but I was energetic. We'll put it that way. But again, even in my own mind, until Rob took a chance on me and said, hey, I want to have you involved, I probably would not have gone on my own. Short of like being kitchen help or just involved with camp as we'd always been. But and that was the transition when somebody took a chance on me and said, hey, we want you involved. The one thing I've seen is we sit down as a board and we try to decide every year what's going on, who's going to be deans, what do we need to change, what do we need to adjust, how can we make camp better. The one thing that always comes up, or that comes up often, and I believe it's super important, and some of the parents here may want to know why we do these things or why these things are decided. Things is like dress codes. Who likes a good dress code? Nobody likes dress code. Who likes to talk about dress code? Nobody likes to talk about dress code. Okay, every year I find myself, or every couple of years, maybe revising or talking about dress code. The reality is there are certain parameters that we need to set down at camp that say, hey, these are what we want from our kids. These are what we want from our campers. Now, we do get a certain amount of feedback from the campers and from the parents of why we have selected to do what we do, but we're laying down rules. We're laying down boundaries that we want to see within our camp of what we want to do. And as we look back at Romans chapter 12 there, chapter 12 verse 2 starts out. It says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good, acceptable, and perfect. It is a very difficult line to walk the Christian life, to affect the world, but not to be in the world. And as we work at camp, it's this conversation we have every year when it comes to cell phones at camp, when it comes to dress code at camp, words that are acceptable to use at camp, behavior that's acceptable at camp. All of these things that we deal with as a board, which is the unfun, it's kind of the sawdust of it all. It's not really something you want to sit and think about, but it's the reality of things that we have to decide to help the youth as we move forward understand what Christian living is like. It's not fun to be that conversation. It's not fun I do not like being introduced as the president of the board, because guess what? Then people know you're the president of the board, and they want to come talk to you about rules and things and stuff that went on. It's like, I'm the fun guy. The president, that seems kind of serious. I'm here for the fun. So, but the reality is we are looking at developing a program that impacts the youth of today so they can go out and impact the world of tomorrow. Because tomorrow will soon become today. I was going to reiterate that every time. Tomorrow will soon become today. I had no concept of kids in sports as my kids grew. And then once they got engaged pretty soon, all those parents I'd ever heard talking about kids in sports, Paul, I know that Paul's a sports guy. I know that Paul's kids play sports. I know that Paul loves to coach. I never thought I'd be that guy. Paul seems so mature. So I never thought I would get to that point. So But tomorrow soon became today, and guess what? I have 4 kids involved in those programs. Now, as I look back at all the trouble I caused at camp, all the I'm not going to say that aloud, all the rules that possibly maybe didn't get followed, I'll put it that way, at camp, seemed reasonable for me then. But guess what? Tomorrow has become today. And now it's my job, as a facilitator at camp, to make sure that the rules are followed. And I also understand more clearly why those rules were set out. They're on purpose. And they have to be there. I realize that some of them may not be fun. But guess what? They're there for a reason. We talked about this a little bit downstairs, that truly rules, guidelines, standards of living, those do give you freedom to operate. That is an adult concept. That's not something that you understand probably as a kid, or even maybe as a 42-year-old. That may be hard to grasp. That's something we get as we go on. But the reality is tomorrow will soon become today, and the issues that you've either done, or things that you've done in the past, or the things that you've created back here are going to soon catch up with you. And so the reality is, and especially in camp, we want kids to leave camp with the ability to impact and affect the world around them, rather than to leave camp being affected by the world for something that happened at camp. And so that's, as we look at, again, as at camp, as what we're doing there, that's what we're after. The other thing that, as I was sitting down, what are things I want to impart? What are things I want to talk about, again, from the standpoint of camp? One, I love the fact that Rich spoke for, I don't know who gets to pick, or whether they did it on purpose, or it just was happenstance. But Rich speaking today, I got a chance to meet Rich this last year at camp again. He'd been at the camp meetings. He's been part of the board meetings. I'd seen him around. I've actually spent more time at camp with his daughter Lynn, who had helped out with camp for years. But this year, Rich came to camp. I sat in on Rich's family group. I got a chance to kind of interact with him and to know him better. The most important thing, or one of the most important things, next to introducing kids to Jesus at camp, is the camaraderie that you get from camp. The misconception is that camp is only for kids. I'm going to say that again. The misconception is that camp is only for kids. Because I know that what I got out of camp this year was phenomenal. Part of that was getting to meet people like Rich and to get a closer relationship, the camaraderie that I built there. Eric touched on the fact that I knew the Elliott family. I love to be at a potluck with Rick and Carol. As a person who loves to hear people laugh, they have great laughs, and you can get them laughing. And once you do, then you're on top. It's like riding the wake on a surfboard. You know what I mean? It's like once you get it, you're golden. I didn't know Eric, or I didn't really know Eric until I started working at camp with him. And again, now I have made a friend that I do all sorts of stuff with. Our families are engaged with each other. We do a lot of things together. And it's a friendship that has only gotten better as we've done more and more, especially camp and things like that, trail life, various things that we're involved in. The camaraderie that we get from camp is phenomenal. And I want to go to, so this is on Hebrews chapter 12. This is something I feel is very important. At the very beginning of Hebrews chapter 12, it talks about a great cloud of witnesses, and it's talking about the saints that have gone before, of recognizing and cheering on the people in Christ to run the race. And again, coming back to this competitive mindset. I don't know that this is Paul writing here, but this is somebody that I'm thinking that Paul is friends with, because this is somebody who's like-minded to Paul, has the ability here to see contest and love physical contest. And he paints it in the picture of a race. As I look at camp, the relationships that I've made, one that Daryl Titus, a long time ago, was working with some kids in archery at camp, at Little Beaver. This is a long time ago. So he had black hair then, and a black mustache. There was this kid that he was working with. The kid was so frustrating. Could not hit the target for anything. Shot arrows over the target, past the hay bale. Got one stuck in a tree, from what I understand. Frustrating kid, okay? That kid was me, so I did get stuck in a tree. Here I am, probably 30-some-odd years later, and I've worked with junior camps and middle school and high school camps, and I've been on the board with Daryl Titus for years, working with him in camp. That camaraderie That the patience that, I know how frustrating I'm sure I was, but the fact that he stuck with it and he kept working, and the relationship that I developed with Daryl to the point where he, again, much like Rob Random, encouraged me along, said, no, you need to be involved. You need to come along on this and be involved in camp. That camaraderie that we built now carries me to the point where we're here today. Some of you might think that's good, some may not. But we're still involved with each other. We're still involved with camp. Camp is still happening. We're still impacting and affecting kids' lives so they can be the Daryl to the Lucas of the later days. Because guess what? Tomorrow will soon become today. And the question will be, how did we affect each other today? Rich hit it in the iron sharpens iron. That's a great, obviously it's a beautiful analogy. It's in Proverbs. But it is so, such a good analogy of what happens at camp and the value of camp. Camp is a lot of work. There was a time here recently even where it's like this summer we were on a vacation at Missouri, Lydia's family's home church in Racine. And it was like, I don't know what to do with camp, with the whole corona thing and restarting, new facility, all that. It's like, what do we do? Say it with me. Okay, Barley Harvest, yeah. So we were at church. They had a senior day. Let me rephrase that. It was about graduation time. They had senior day, which was graduation day for seniors, not over 65. Anyway, so we had the senior day. The seniors were given a short blip. There was, I think, 21, 25, something like that of them. They were given a short little section of what they loved about Racine Christian Church and what Racine Christian Church meant to them. Racine Christian Church is a church of about 1,000 people. It has probably a $5 million building. They just built a $1.5 million youth center out of pocket. Beautiful youth center. It's got games, it's got screens, it's got TVs, it's got a huge entryway, all for the youth. All of those kids, you know what their most important, most treasured thing about Racine Christian Church was? Had nothing to do with their facility. Had nothing to do with the programs they put on Sundays. You know what it was? It was camp. Unsolicited. Every one of them, when it came down to it, it came back to camp. And I was sitting there thinking, well, that's kind of weird. I might have to rethink this camp thing. This may be important. And obviously I'm involved. I've done it. But as a moment where I was thinking, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be the person that has to do this. You sit there and think, 25 kids. They've just built them all this stuff. They've got all this program. They've hired people. They have things. They got stuff going on. They go to baseball games. They go to race car tracks. All this stuff they do. You know what it was? Summer camp. And they sleep. And I've been there. It's not a great bunkhouse. It's not like it's a killer facility. But you know what it is? It's camaraderie. And they talked about it. Time of people investing in those kids' lives, those kids investing in each other's life. They came back to the friendships they'd made. They're the people that they had met and the people that affected their lives. That's what they talked about. That's camp. That's the importance of camp. As Christians, that's what we're all after. And so that's why I tell you that camp is not just for kids. My friendship and relationship with Rich has changed because of last year's camp. I have developed friendships, and Eric and others here, that I would not have had otherwise had it not been for camp. And so when you think about, okay, how important is this? What can I do? How is this? I don't know what your specific skill set, talents are, what your ability is, what your financial ability is. There is a place for you at camp. If you cannot be involved directly with camp, you can pray for the weeks of camp. There is so much to be done. Eric can tell you, Daryl can tell you, Mandy can tell you. There are people here that can talk to you about camp and what you can do for it and what you can be involved with. And again, the reality is that tomorrow soon becomes today. And so as we go from here and we think about the lives of the kids that we're involved with, how can we affect this? What can we do? It's better to be thinking about tomorrow today than thinking about today. Tomorrow we're like, well, we just didn't get it done. We didn't do it. We messed up, or it didn't happen. As I parent 4 boys, I realize that how important today is, because you may not have tomorrow, or depending on what you do today may affect directly what doesn't happen tomorrow. And so camp, I want to, It's important. It's effective. And we can do so much with it. I would say this. It does take a group to do it. Right now, the group is small. It's a lot of work for the people involved. If all of us pitch in together and do a little bit, we can do a lot. But the more that gets put on the little bit that are doing, the harder it gets to do much. Finances are great. Money is awesome. The thing I treasure more is your involvement, friendship that we can develop in camp, and the memories that we can make going forward. Your prayers as we're involved with camp are tremendous, super valuable. That's what we're after. Money is awesome, but we want to make sure that tomorrow we have done what we needed to today, that we can impact the kids so they can go out and impact and affect the world for Jesus rather than being affected by the world in a negative way. That's what I got. I'm not sure. I haven't been here in a while, so I'm not sure your transition out. I'll just come down there. How does that sound? I will shut off my microphone before I leave. Oh, is that why?
Okay, quick announcement. Sorry. I just wanted to say one thing really quick about what Lucas had said. He said money is awesome. Yes, it's great, but we could have all the money, and if we don't have people, if we don't have adults to staff camp, we can't have kids. We can't have camp. Yes, we need kids, but kids are generally willing to come. But we can't have 50 kids and no adults, or 2 adults. So we really, really, really do need adults. So be thinking about it now, because you have 6 months, a little over 6 months, to let you know for next year. Okay, my announcement is October is Stewardship Month. Daryl is going to hold a class about how to get the best out of your resources and to help with your 2020 spending plan. So you could see Daryl. We'll have that information in the bulletin next week. But if you have any questions about your resources or about setting up your 2020 spending plan, see Daryl. He loves to do that stuff. Oh, 2022.
Okay, so I do have one more announcement. That's from the cooking crew downstairs. When you head down there, go into the auction room, look at the auction things. When lunch is ready, they will put it out and it will be announced. Don't stand in line. Go look at those things, see what you want to get, see how you can help out the camp. Let's be standing to close our services tomorrow. Oh, the other one. That was wrong. I couldn't remember which song I put up. See, I keep reading. As Stacy likes to remind me, stroke brain. I